Okay, welcome back to the Hubscale Podcast, where we dive into the minds of security leaders from all over the world. This week we have Don Jeter, the CMO from Torq. Welcome, Don. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
No problem, no problem. Well, to kick us off, Don, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and a bit more about Torq?
Yeah, Don from Torq CMO. I say Chief Meme Officer. Um, Torq's had an incredible run. I've been here about 2 years. Founded in 2020 with the mission of helping security teams automate more faster. The founders looked at the cybersecurity space, specifically the SOC, and thought that they could help these teams automate things. Legacy SOAR, as we say, is dead, and our platform is helping teams automate. So that's what we're working on. We've had incredible adoption. In the last year, we saw 300% revenue growth in 2024. So we're getting
Wow.
incredible traction. Yeah, that's Torq.
And tell us a little bit more about your role as CMO.
Man, I think the roles changed a lot. I think, you know, marketing's changed a lot. And so I think my role is just to, one part reflect the DNA of the company, which is cybersecurity. And then the other is get people interested, capture attention and awareness and drive that demand. Now that's easier said than done today. I think for me, we've tried to take a different approach to get attention because we know the market's changing so fast and our,
Yeah.
content consumption habits and behaviors are changing so fast. So for us, we really focus on capturing attention first, entertaining first, and then telling you about our product.
Sure, sure. And making memes as well, obviously.
Yeah. That's why I say chief meme officer because I do think as dumb as it sounds, um, today, right, with how the doom scroll and internet culture we
Absolutely.
live in and these media cycles that just are insane. You have to be you have to kind of speak meme, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
totally get it. I know, Don, that you were incredibly selective about your next move after PAX 8. So I'm curious, why talk and what made you land on that decision? What was it about them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I had an incredible run and like so much love for the team at PAX 8. Like I
Yeah.
feel just super blessed to have worked there. It was over 6 years. Um, and I think I learned a ton at PAX 8, especially on the marketing front. And so leaving there like was, an emotional decision because we had, formed really deep relationships with
Yeah.
that team. And so Ofer reached out. PAX 8 had just put up a sign on the NASDAQ that said, that we had reached this $1 billion milestone. And Ofer pinged me, the founder of Torq, and said, like, almost like a challenger sale, was like, prove you can do it again. And I thought, and I kind of like took the bait.
Sure.
But it was the people and the product is
Mhm.
why I joined. The people, the founders specifically I think bought in really early to a brand first approach. And this was, 3 years ago. We started the discussions a year before I joined
Sure.
because I was very selective. As you said, I wanted to like make sure that where I went to, they were really on board and bought into a playbook that I wanted to run that I
Yeah.
had ran successfully at PAX 8. And so we really spent a lot of time communicating what that would look like and what a brand first approach is. And so the team bought in right away. And I thought, like, this team's down to clown. And so they, even the board, like we ran the board through, this approach. So no one would be surprised when, skeletons started showing up and chainsaws started showing up in the feed. So they bought in right away. And then the product, right? So people and product, the product showed really well. I sensed such a deep passion from the team
Mm.
around the product and what they were doing, and they really believed in the mission, like that legacy platforms weren't serving the security audience, and specifically, the teams in the security operations that are just were being underserved, and there was a huge gap and pain that we could go solve with a new approach to an old problem. So the product showed really well, and the people were just instant connection.
Absolutely. Um, so one of the reasons we were so keen to get you on the podcast, Don, is that as a business, we follow so many of the security vendors, and the Torq brand really stands out on LinkedIn and everywhere else. It's instantly recognizable. So, how did you guys do that?
Yeah, man, thank you. That means a ton because we work really hard on it. And I think it goes back to what we just were talking about. Like coming in, we knew that this would be a brand play. Like, how do you build
Sure.
and when I say brand, like it's more than logos and colors, right? It's like the whole feeling around, the company. Like, and I think when I looked at the enterprise security space, it felt really boring as a whole. And there was just a sea of sameness, right? And I think nowadays, again, to break through that, you do have to think a little different. And it sounds really obvious, but like just by going at things a little bit differently, having a different tone, having a really clear and in some ways bold POV has helped us cut through the noise. There's so much information out there, right? As we just kind of mentioned. And I think you got to have a very strong POV, even polarizing POV,
Mm,
and be able to communicate that POV in like 2 seconds or less to stop
sure.
the scrolling, right? And
Yeah.
for us, it started with, well, what's our story? Well, we believe that SOAR is dead, right? Security, orchestration, automation, and response. We believe that that technology is dead. Gartner came out relatively recently and said SOAR is obsolete. So they've kind of parroted back what we have been saying for the past 2+ years.
Yeah.
Tell that story in 2 seconds. How do you do it? Well, you have a really strong, POV of SOAR is dead, and then you match that with a really bold, arresting visual like skeletons blasting laser eyes, at things. And I think in when you look at LinkedIn, there is just a lot of same looking images, right? I mean, gosh, we'll get into AI in a second, but making content is so easy now. The barrier of entry for content creation is so low that there's just so much out there. There's a flood of it. And you really do have to figure out a way to make something that looks really unique and sounds different, even if it's not for everybody. Like, I kind of like it when people hate it because that at least means that we're connecting on some emotional level, some visceral level that says, hey, this isn't for everyone, but it's working for us and our audience seems to like it. I think the whole like storytelling movement is kind of over. Like, I don't think anybody has time for a story. I think they want viral clips, they want explosions, they want memes, and that's how you're going to get attention nowadays. And then you get a chance to advertise and tell them about features and functions. You get kind of get the right to advertise after you capture that attention. So that's how we think about it, and it's almost in everything we do. Like, not every post is going to be entertaining, but we really do try to think about that creative packaging before we put something out.
Sure. It must, because you said there that you almost like it to be polarizing. That must take a huge amount of confidence, and you used the word bold. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I mean, it's hard to stand out. Like, I think it's
Sure.
almost, by necessity that you
Yeah.
have to have that strong POV, right? I think when you hear about differentiation, a lot of time that's attached to product or product marketing and how are your features and functions different. I look at marketing as its own product and how are we different in marketing and what are we going to do, whether it's in video or partnerships that's going to cut through that noise, even how you package up a white paper or an
Sure.
ebook, right? We don't call the ebook an ebook, we call it a manifesto. We create very engaging visuals that are more comic book or more sci-fi leaning, so it breaks up the graphs, right, and all the data that these guides deliver. So it's just spending a little bit more time and trying to think creatively about your audience and what they might respond to. And yeah, I think it's confidence, but it's also just like stuff we like to do. I think there's an
Yeah.
element here where if marketing is not having fun, the customer can feel that, your internal audience can feel that. So we really try to have fun doing this stuff. It's not like, hey, let's go out and piss people off. It's like, let's just make stuff that we like, and we kind of trust that our audience will like it too.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
You often use the term with me, brand led, or brand leading to demand. What is that, and why has it been so successful, do you think?
I've just always thought people buy brand, and this might just be my own personal experience, but brand to me is just so powerful and it drives so much, behavior that we're not even aware of sometimes. People buy emotionally, and nowadays online, people are buying from people, and I think on social media specifically, we forget that sometimes. It's like, hey, here's another white paper, but nowadays, like it almost to me seems like brand is influencing a lot more than people give it credit for. Why do you think like CrowdStrike's on an F1 car or Microsoft's on an F1
Yeah.
car? There's this brand association that is very powerful that I think, I'm not saying this in a smart way, but like it's this invisible influence on all of us. I think, you look at in other industries, right? Like fashion, for example, or luxury items, luxury goods, a purse carries the same thing, whether it's a Louis Vuitton purse or a $25 purse from Target. But people want to signal that they're part of something, part of a community. In our case, we want to create a sort of movement with people who said, "Hey, I use a SOAR, but I'm done with SOAR. I killed my SOAR. I'm done. I'm past that. I'm joining Torq." And I don't know. I think like brand to me has just always stood out as this lever that is underutilized in the enterprise. I think there's some companies who are doing this extremely well. You look at Wiz. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
powerful brand. And they got this, they understood this on a level I don't think that has been seen in this space, and hence, the insane valuation. They get it.
Yeah.
They have an incredible community built, and they really, leaned into the brand and the experience within the product, and then entertainment. They did this, the CISO musical recently. They're just always doing things that are a surprise and delight and brand experiences for their customers. They did the Blockbuster store. I think that team is just incredibly smart, obviously, but ahead of their time in understanding the power of brand. They're very, very smart, and we try to do that on another level. Now we look way different, right? Like Wiz
That's
is
right.
magical and fun and playful, and they have just a really cool design system that they've put out. For us, it's like, okay, well, Wiz is doing that. We have other, kind of more boring B2B enterprise security plays. What if we just took a very consumer, kind of almost loud approach that was,
Yeah.
you know, almost anti, it's fun, it's irreverent, but it's not playful, right? There's not a vibe like that for us. It's
There's
more,
not
it's
there's not
almost, it's
much
almost
playful about a chainsaw or a skeleton.
yeah, or our Monster Jam partnership. It's like it's just something that we want to get people talking because it's so absurd in a way. It's
Yeah.
almost like, the WrestleMania of LinkedIn. It's all
Analogy.
theater now. So I think and again, I'm just fortunate to be part of a team that's like got that and is down for it.
It seems like everybody buys into it, which is great. Where did I've got it to come later, but we should talk about it now. Where did the monster truck idea come from?
My son grabbed a big monster truck in Costco, and I was, it seemed almost, it just matched. Like we have this absurd, over the top, funny, irreverent brand. And again, this is another example of like, zigzag. Everyone's doing F1 cars. What's the opposite? I
Yeah.
look for opposites in a lot of what we do. It's like, what's the opposite of playful, accessible, fun, simple Apple? Chainsaw skeletons. What's the opposite of F1 cars? Big monster trucks, right? Fast, just crushes stuff. And it just kind of matches. So we do look for a lot of opportunities to do what's the opposite of that? You see that also with like our junior media intern Trevor on Torque TV. It's not polished.
Sure.
A lot of the next generation of security leaders grew up with like Adult Swim, Tim Robinson, kind of a different sense of humor and internet culture, right?
Yeah.
Internet culture is massive, the terminally online. And so we try to figure out ways to entertain in ways that are very different than what's out there right now.
Sure. Is there, because I cannot, we hear it sometimes, there'll be marketing leaders that are looking at Wiz, that are looking at you guys and thinking, how can we do something similar? Um, what advice would you give a marketing leader if they were thinking we need to make our brand stand out a little bit more?
Do it, right? Like try it. You gotta fail. You gotta try a lot. I think polarizing is better than forgettable. And so it's leaning in and not being afraid. As you said, there has to be some confidence. It's a lot easier when you have the buy-in of your board and your leadership team, right? It's easy to, be like, we're going to take all these risks. But if you don't have alignment, if you don't communicate, that approach early and often, and it surprises people, you could have a misstep there. So for me, it's also like I think part of it is like do stuff you like to do. Like great products come out of people who are like really passionate about what they're doing. And a lot of this stuff is like it's funny to us, like we try to make content that we think is funny
Sure.
and we think will stand out. And our team, right? Like I have a great relationship with our CRO and we're super aligned, both in kind of the sense of humor and kind of the brand that we wanted to build here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of it too, like getting buy-in from your sales team because if they like it, they're going to amplify. We don't have to ask people to post and repost and share on social. Like if it's great marketing, they'll share it because they think it's cool. They think it's fun.
Yeah.
So for other marketers, I think you got to try stuff. I think it's like I don't think, go on offense, attack, and make stuff that you like.
Sure. You started to touch upon your team there, Don, and you've obviously scaled some amazing marketing teams in your career. What are the most important criteria when you look at scaling a marketing team for a startup?
Oh man, that's a smart question. I try to keep it super simple. And I think this came from Emily Kramer, who's like this brilliant marketing leader who has now a Substack and a whole community built. But I break it into the engine and fuel kind of breakdown where it's like I got content, brand, creative on one side, that's the fuel, and
Right.
then engine, which is like ops, demand gen, targeting, even events on like think about like content and distribution, fuel and
Sure.
engine. And I break it down like that. And I try to keep that structure as long as I can. I even put product marketers in the fuel. Because it all comes back to content for me at the end of the day, and content's everything. And so I need to make a ton of content that is engaging and drives attention and ultimately demand. And then I need a great engine that is able to put that content into market really
Yeah, sure.
efficiently and highly targeted, whether that's digitally or at events. So that's how I think about it. And then I just try to get really, really smart people who know a lot more about the technical marketing than I do.
Yeah.
People who, get data and understand all that. And I've been super fortunate to be able to hire incredible people. I think the other piece that I think maybe gets overlooked is I think marketing, now in 2025 and beyond is going to be a lot about understanding where culture's at, understanding where the internet is, where it's going, and being able to create content that adapts and evolves to the culture and what's going on the internet. And so when we hire people, it's like, I want to know you're interested just in general. Like
Yeah.
what are your interests? What are you looking at? What are you reading? What shows are you watching? What music are you listening to? What websites do you look at every day? Like I want to know what content you're consuming because we take a lot of inspiration and ideas from just everywhere, right? Like and say, oh, how could that apply to enterprise cybersecurity? How could we make, a meme on that? How could we make a funny video from that? I think that that's something and like just a sense of taste and understanding how to do that in a way that will capture attention. So that's how we think about building teams.
That's really interesting. So almost having an idea or being interested in popular culture.
Pop
Be
culture,
helpful.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yeah, are you plugged into pop culture? Like, do you know what's going on like with viral memes right now? Have you send
Sure.
me like we share clips. We're constantly just thinking about like what's going on out there on the internet and then
Your team's
planning
group
our work
chat.
into it.
Your
Yeah.
team's group chat must be mad.
Yeah, it's just funny. And I think the whole company, like we have a random channel on our Slack that's just people sharing funny stuff. And not every post can be funny, but we do try to have an element of entertainment in everything we do. And I think that that's really important. There's a theater to it nowadays, I think.
100%, yeah. we kind of already covered this, but I'm interested to ask it anyway. When you think about the best hires, the best people that you've worked with and had in your teams, is there any one characteristic that you think features across, most of them? Anything that stands out?
Yeah, pace, able to keep pace. I think at startups specifically, it's a sprint.
Right.
This isn't, and on our teams, on the marketing teams that I've been on, we drive really hard, and like I think there's no place to like hide out, like there are in big teams. I
Yeah.
want really lean, really efficient teams that care deeply about the work we're putting out. And I think that pace and that drive and that like grit to keep going is a huge part of it. We don't need, it for me, it's like, are you interested? Do you enjoy what you're making? And can you make it at volume? Like lots of volume, right? In the first year here, we went from 4 events on the year. Last year, we did 90 plus events. This
Wow.
year, we'll do 150 plus events. And so pace across everything we do, like scaling everything. I think, hyper scaling startups require people who know what it is. Like when we interview, we're very transparent about this is going to be a harder role. Like this is going to be a harder role in terms of the speed that you need to work and the balls that we're all going to juggle. Because we have to look bigger. A lot of this for us too is looking bigger than we are. We want to look like a huge enterprise company, and we're a startup, right? We grew 200% headcount growth last year, and that'll continue. But like we want to look bigger than where we're at now.
Absolutely. Is that something that you noticed going from Symantec into Pax 8? Was
Oh
that like a
gosh,
realization for you?
man, yeah. I remember just sitting in some of those marketing meetings and was fortunate to be there, but it just was slow, man. And
Yeah.
it killed. And I was younger then. I was like a lot younger. And I just had the ADD and just like, I wanted to make stuff. And there were like demand gen teams and brand teams and corp comms teams and legal, like, and you just had these layers and layers and layers. What I love about startups and the culture we have here at Torq, and the same at Pax 8, especially in the early days, was just this DNA of disruption and speed.
Sure.
Go fast, make stuff, and ship, right? Ship often. And I think for us, I've really enjoyed that. We can go from ideation to live on a landing page, start the idea in the morning, have it up by, midday, noon,
Wow.
and an email ready to go and display ads. We designed the team for that type of speed. And it's not for everybody either. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
some people are like, I want to go hide out. I want to know what my day looks like. For us, it's like speed's such a differentiator. We say all gas, no brakes, and everything we do, we want to go really, really fast because that speed to market and agility is a differentiator and an advantage at this stage, right, of our scale.
Absolutely. I think this is a good time to sort of touch on the journey at Pax 8, given we spoke about it a little bit there. Obviously, being there from 5 million to 1 billion, that's obviously amazing. Tell us about that. It sounded like a wild ride.
It was so much fun. They're here in Denver. I moved to Denver to join them at like 25 employees in 2016. And it was very similar to why I joined Torque. It was the people. Like
Right.
I met the co-founder Ryan Walsh, and then I met Nick Hetty, and who's now he's like CRO, like president, like number two dude, number three dude with the CEO and co-founder there. And they were instantly like, hey, come here. I'd interviewed at Google. I had a job offer at Google, and they said, come here. You can build out the marketing team and help us figure out how to take this to market. And they gave me so much autonomy and freedom. And I credit a lot of that to Nick, who I just mentioned, who kind of shielded me when we were testing out a lot of stuff and being very different. But their DNA, just like Torque, was and still is highly disruptive. Like,
Yeah.
we went to market with a big, bold POV that distribution is broken, right? Ingram Micro Tech Data, TD Synnex is broken. That doesn't work, especially for MSPs and MSSPs. We wanted to make buying, selling, and managing cloud easier, and we had a marketplace, and we were not a distributor. And so we went really hard on that messaging and positioning. And even still to this day, just 2, 3 weeks ago, they took out a New York Times ad, saying if you want to buy the past, you can, Ingram Micro and Tech Data are selling the past, basically.
Saw it.
TD Sync. So that's the DNA. I love that I got to be a part of that. And for me, I love seeing that still going. Like that's really rewarding to see the culture and the brand that we started back in 2016, 2017 is still, growing at an incredible rate. They're expanding all over globally. And yeah, I just have that's a special place.
You've obviously been involved in two businesses that have grown sort of really quickly. Is there any point in time that you can remember, maybe from PAX 8 or from Talk, where something happens and you think I think we might have cracked this,
There's always a point where it becomes like there's like this network effect where the growth becomes almost like,
like exponential?
yeah, exponential, where you just kind of hockey stick up, and it's hard to place. But I remember at PAX 8, it was around 300 employees. I don't know where the revenue was at, but once we hit 300 employees, the growth just started to build on itself.
Right.
And then we expanded into EMEA. We opened in London, and it was just from there, it grew really, really fast globally. And I think that the trajectory is exactly the same for Torque, if not maybe a little bit faster, just because it's the enterprise and the deal sizes are so much bigger.
Sure.
But no, Pac State's growth and community. I think that one thing too to call out is incredible with community building, like their field marketing and community motion. They have Jen Bedell there, who's a community mastermind at understanding how to go out, tell stories, build community. Then they brought in Rob Ray, who's this like, MSP legend. But then also like, again, they just understood how to entertain. Their social media presence is incredible. If you look at their posts, shout out to my buddy Ross D. Philippus. Um, so yeah, and that team, yeah, special place for me with that team. Like I just love the work they're doing, and the growth is incredible. It's great to see.
Sure. That's really cool. Moving on to AI, because I know we were talking about this the other day. Obviously, this week's been the week that the AI doll has like taken over all of social media.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It's like this week was action figures, last week was like Studio Ghibli, and
Yeah.
it's just like, and we're like AI is going to change the world, but first let's look at this little Barbie doll. We're like, oh, look at
Absolutely. Yeah.
AI is going to eat marketing. Look at this little Studio Ghibli version of myself. Like,
Yeah, that everybody does the exact same thing, you know.
yeah, it's just these trends, and no doubt, right? AI is changing everything. I'm not going to be on video being like, I'm not buying into AI. But I do think that there's this element where you still need people with an understanding of what good content is, how to entertain, how to capture attention, and just like taste.
Yeah.
Because if anything, as I mentioned, like AI is lowering the barrier of entry, and that just means a bunch of crap. Like
Yeah.
the AI slop is real, and it's just everywhere. And you can tell, I think, you know, teams that will over-index on AI they won't get the attention. Like you can tell when something's written by AI. You know
Mm.
it. There's an intuitive sense, I think, built into us with humans where also it's like a cold email, like a spam email, where it's
Yeah.
like, that's a templated email that's been sent to hundreds of people. You know it. You intuitively know. And I think spam and AI are going to be connected because you still need to care. It still needs to be personalized. You still need to know your audience deeply and what moves them and what captures attention and creates emotion for your brand. And so for us, like everything we do, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna be slow to adopt all the AI. Like, I don't want to go, hey, we're cutting headcount with AI because now we can just write it all with AI, or now we can create a bunch of images that kind of look like skeletons with this stuff. We're of course, feeding a model. We're of course like learning how to use it in the right way. But I do think that there's this little bit of at least in other industries, and maybe this isn't marketing related, kind of a hype level with AI that I don't think we fully understand where to use it, how to use it best, when, why, how, that we haven't quite figured that out. It's just been kind of this knee-jerk reaction. And the other piece is a lot of this is generative. And so it's building upon what's already been done.
Mm.
And I think as marketers, people should looking at things like what hasn't been done yet. And AI is great at feeding you, a bunch of stuff that's been done, that's learned from. And I think so that's something just that I think about a lot. It's like, how do we still need to be original? I don't want anybody to ever think we're writing with AI because it almost is, it dilutes the product to me. If marketing is a product, to me, sometimes AI can dilute it.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be, I think for everybody about harnessing it, not relying on it.
Totally. It's a tool, right? It's a tool. Like it's like the calculator. Like you still need to understand basic, addition.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's nice to have it. It's similarly to like when we got, smartphones. I think it's a tool. I don't think it should be viewed as now, are we going to hire different? Are we thinking about headcount in a different way? Absolutely. But are we like moving to AI first everything? We're not doing that yet on our side.
cool. Going back to talk, Don, you talked about the amazing growth last year, the amount more meetings you're going to. Um, so what's the next step on the journey? Where does the mission take you this year?
I think it's just continuing that growth. Like we announced our expansion and EMEA headquarters opening up in London at the beginning of the year. It's going and really accelerating growth in EMEA. And then continuing, we still have so much attention and market to win here in the US, no doubt. Like, I think we're just, I've been here 2 years. I think we're just getting on the radar. I
Yeah.
do think there's a lot of buzz about us. Like, I think we're the most talked about cybersecurity company that's not named Wiz, right? I think that there's incredible buzz. Um, but yeah, we have a huge market here and then accelerate the growth over in EMEA for sure.
Amazing, amazing. I certainly think that in our office, your marketing catches our eye as much as anyone's, or more so.
I mean, again, we're having fun with it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you there's this big strategic roadmap with marketing but a lot of this stuff comes out of a place of just joy for us. Like, okay, Monster Jam partnership, that's funny. Like that will get people's attention. That's an unexpected partnership. That's fun. Letting a junior media intern with a broke down van and a satellite dish on top go and interview people about cybersecurity. Like we just want to have fun. And I think that fun there's a magnetism to it and that's special and you feel that in a booth, you can feel that online, you can feel that on there's something to that I think we're super fortunate to have.
The expansion to EMEA is super exciting that you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
How is that going to influence your job as CMO? Are you going to have to think about things slightly differently for the EMEA region? How does it
I
work?
thought you know I thought that we would these camo hats with chainsaws wouldn't land in posh London, but it's landing. It's
Right.
like, yeah, and I also like love the juxtaposition. So we're at Wimbledon. We have a sponsorship at Wimbledon. We're going to be
Yeah, cool.
there. We're going to be at InfoSec. But I love the juxtaposition specifically like with Wimbledon to have these black cars driving around with like these black cabs with like skeletons and chainsaws and over the top, just kind of irreverent, very American
Yeah.
humor in London. But everybody's taken to it. We have an incredible, EMEA marketing leader that we hired, JC, and we have a great sales leader over there named Usman, and they're like, no, people love it. So
Yeah.
again, like we're like all gas, no brakes, just keep giving this identity. We expand the identity. So you'll see
Absolutely.
like pterodactyls come in. You'll see all sorts of weird stuff at Black Hat and RSA this year. But we're at InfoSec too in London. They're out at Excel in June. So that's
Cool.
a big event for us out there.
I can't wait to see the people drinking their Pims and eating their strawberries and cream at Wimbledon, seeing a cab with a chainsaw and a skeleton
We
drive by.
have, yeah, quite an activation plan for Wimbledon. And
That
that
sounds
again,
amazing.
like to me, like there's just such a like funny juxtaposition there. Like I
Yeah,
just love that.
that is so much fun.
It's like luxury, like, this lifestyle of Wimbledon, and then, this random enterprise cybersecurity company with these wild graphics. It'll be
Amazing.
fun.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So finally, Don, just before we finish up, you've obviously had an insanely successful last few years. We always ask this question actually to finish up. If you could go back to the beginning of your career, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Um, I think I would, yeah, man, that's a really good question. You're gonna have to edit this and make it sound like I had something really smart to say right off the bat. I think it's just stay interested. Like I was always interested. I started in sales at Symantec and and I was interested in the story we were trying to tell, and I got this natural transition into marketing, this opportunity to join marketing. And I think what served me is just being able to connect the dots of stuff I like.
Sure.
As odd as that sounds, like it's more like curation of ideas and connecting dots in storytelling. Like, oh, we could use that. I saw a movie a few years ago that did this, or I saw, a meme a few weeks ago that did like it's just connecting things and being able to create excitement around a story. And for me, it's been, staying plugged into pop culture and finding clever and unique ways to connect our brand to those points of reference and inspiration.
Well, Don, I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, Tom, no, great discussion. Would love to do it again. Thanks for the time, man. Thanks for the
No
invite.
worries. Thanks again.
Okay, cool.